Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dude, Where's My Startup? I am here with my good friend Michele, COO and co-founder of Superfluid, the payment streaming protocol. If you want to learn about the cutting edge of finance, how to launch a token, and how rock climbing can be the best way to test any co-founding relationship, this one's for you.
Hey, hi Dan. Hi everyone, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. How are you doing today, Michele?
Oh, good. How about you?
Not too bad. Enjoying the April sunshine. It's beautiful here in the UK. Well, Michele, I wanted to jump straight into your story into crypto. You've had an interesting past. I know you were in robotic bartenders as one of your first entrepreneurial sprees. What's your story into crypto? How did it all happen?
Well, it's a long story, as you mentioned. I moved to London in 2015, and just before that, I was working in a robotic bartender company that was installing robot bartenders around the world and on cruise ships as well. But I always was somewhat interested in fintech, and London was a vibrant ecosystem back then with a lot of neobanks and a lot of financial institutions that were looking for innovation, as well as entrepreneurs starting their own ventures. At the same time, it was a very vibrant and I would say efficient venture capital hub, where the founders were able to find the investments needed to scale a lot more like the United States versus, say, Europe. So London was kind of the right place for me to be at the time. And with that, I started looking into neobanks and fintechs. I've done a couple of investments with crowdfunding websites as well, just to understand a little bit more about the space. And it was, I would say, late 2015 when I stumbled upon this thing called Ethereum, which was mind-boggling in a way, because I never heard of anything that could run applications that were unstoppable. That's what kind of got me in. So fast forward to, say, summer 2016, I have read any piece of content I could find around Ethereum. I met all the people I could meet in London in the industry, and I was going to meetups, and I started writing about blockchain. One of my pieces went to the homepage of medium.com, and so it effectively started dragging a lot of interest towards me. So I was like, okay, wait a minute. If I am so interested and there is so much more of the world that is interested in this space, then it sounds like it most likely will fundamentally reshape finance as we know it today because of the very properties of Ethereum. And so I was standing on the sidelines for a while, just like learning about projects and trying stuff out. Funny enough, I bought my first Ether to just try things out on chain and not to invest in the token, right? And so at the time, it was very much, I would say, raw and informal as an industry. So you could talk to anyone and you could learn from anyone. And I got hooked basically because of the way you can create new primitives that fundamentally reshape the way we think and move money. So
how did you meet your co-founders? How did Superfluid all begin? And what is Superfluid?
maybe I'll start from that last part and then I'll roll back to how I met my co-founders. So Superfluid is a protocol, is a new financial primitive that allows you to transfer tokens in real time on chain. So instead of saying getting $10 once a month, you can get a fraction of a penny of a dollar every second in a constant stream. That looks a bit more like opening the tap and having the money flow into your bucket versus a one-off glass of water given to you. This is fundamentally reshaping a lot of the recurring payments industry, but also subscriptions and rewards distributions. And you can build applications on top of that. So say you receive a constant flow of USDC, and then you can send that directly into DeFi and have that converted, say, 20% into Ether and 8% into Bitcoin in the dollar cost averaging strategy. So it's kind of a waterfall system where money flows to you and then you redirect it where you want it to be, and it flows automatically where you want it to be and onward to the rest of the economy. So it's a very novel building block that was available just because of blockchain technology. Now, how I got into doing that is I was learning about the industry, and one of my main interests at the time was analytics, understanding how things were evolving on chain. And so I was initially thinking about building an analytics company, and I went to Berlin Blockchain Week in 2019, and there I met a few other folks that were building pretty awesome projects. One of them was Francesco, who was building RDAI, which was a way to stream the interest of Compound to another wallet versus the one that was providing the principal and locking it into Compound. So basically, you could say lock up 1 million DAI and donate the interest to an NGO project or one of your children, whatever. And I was like, okay, that's a very interesting concept, but why are you limiting that to interest when you can stream any token? And so that's kind of where the conversation started, and it actually went on for a long time before we could formally kind of come up with a protocol that could do this on chain as a new primitive with smart contracts. So yeah, we met at the hackathon basically during Berlin Blockchain Week.
Those moments, those like aha moments, and because this project is so mission focused, it's like, why am I getting paid at the end of the month? Like, why should that exist? I've done all this work. Like, what's the point of waiting 30 days when today I did my work and I do get paid now? And so I have sleepless nights as a founder when I'm excited about something, but that idea must have been like, sleepless weeks, months.
Yeah, look, first of all, if you live in Europe, you're used to something called like a direct debit, or you're used to some sort of like recurring billing. And if you live in the US, sometimes you have to pay bills by checks. If you live in other parts of the world, you're paying rent in checks, sometimes in advance, right? And we live in the 20th century, like 21st century. So it's like 2025 now, and we're using systems that were designed, 50, 70 years ago. And there is no reason why money should move at the speed of, pre-internet, where things need to be moved manually. So money should be flowing at the speed of the internet in today's world. And so, yes, maybe it was a bit of a moonshot idea to try to be arrogant enough to bring a new financial primitive in existence, really. But the end of the day is nobody should wait for money that represents value they already generated. So if you're working every day, you're putting in the effort, then you should see the reward coming to you almost seamlessly as you put in the effort. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where we started to think about, okay, look, why does everyone provide a 30 days interest-free loan to their employer, waiting for that payroll to come to them, while they could be taking that money earlier and putting that into some sort of interest-generating product or system that basically makes them benefit from the cash flow in the first place. So while this is maybe a bit difficult for large corporations, then all the freelancer work, which even risks to not get paid at all, should get access to that capital as they provide the service. Is de-risking the entire relationship.
What's a use case of Superfluid that right now you are super excited about?
Well, recently I'm extremely excited about incentives and rewards distributions. So let's say that I am a large DAO, and I have a very large user base of community members that are contributing to the DAO in any shape and form. And because I want them to own the protocol, the project, the app, whatever the DAO is building, I would want them to have incentives for basically hitting the key metrics that make the project successful. And so one of those incentives is usually the token of the DAO or the token of the project. And we have seen many ways of distributing the token to the user base in a maybe retroactive fashion, which was trying to create some sort of initial distribution and then kind of relying on the market for distributing it further. That kind of has proven not to work with these airdrops that, they distribute based on retroactive metrics that maybe you can only fine tune to a certain degree and then you cannot change in the future anymore. So, some of the most successful distributions were like a sequence of airdrops to have different groups, different snapshots, etc. And then, the market tends to either concentrate token to whales or some major players. And, then you have a long tail of users that are basically not active because they don't have enough stake into your project. So what Superfluid is being used to kind of solve lately is we can design a program that focuses on the key incentives for keeping the user base active and promoting the protocol, the project, in a way that is an ongoing distribution based on on-chain metrics. So effectively what you can do is you can say, okay, the key items for this project to be successful are A, B, and C, and anyone who is actually actively contributing towards A, B, and C is rewarded in real time with the token. And so you are now tapping onto a dynamic allocation of token based on clear impact that is driven by these users or these individuals or these other projects. So we are calling this streaming programmatic rewards, and is not necessarily just an experiment. Is also the way we have been distributing our own token, so that if we have a large user base of active users that are promoting and contributing to the protocol, they can get an allocation that is increasing over time, and that makes them kind of larger stakeholders in the value generation of the overall protocol and in the ability to influence the direction the protocol evolves as well. So I think that is the most exciting usage I've seen so far, because it's potentially fixing a problem for the whole industry, which is distribution of the token with the right incentives in place.
Walk us through the decision to launch the sub token.
You can see it as a tool that distributes potentially governance and the utility of the protocol to a large user base. Now, if you will, if you're looking into the effort that goes into launching a token, well, first of all, I would say it's not really done by, say, us as the core team, but it's really done by the community. So Superfluid is a nice protocol, because we started from basically day one with a lot of third parties involved in the creation of the software and also in the execution of the software. So most of the system is now running by third parties running what we are calling sentinels that keep in check the protocol and its operations. And those sentinels were third parties from day one, right? So we had a lot of learnings over maybe 5 years now with these third parties being in charge of the protocol and its operations, right? So I think that the hardest part is really to get the community to be active and to be connected to you, because in this kind of open source permissionless world, sometimes these players are not even connected to the core team, so they just go ahead and do things, and they do that for their own interest and for the interest of the industry. And so it's kind of hard to collect all the pieces of the puzzle and then align that the kind of vision that the community has for the protocol. So I think that a large kind of advantage we had compared to someone who's starting from scratch is that we had years of learning on how to deal with a multi-party community that is not just led by just one team, but is led by many teams, and then kind of getting everyone together to agree on what's the strategy. Is there a need for a token? Why is there a need? Why do you need it? And what is the right way to distribute it? All those decisions are coming from a consensus of multiple players, and so that's kind of where it's really hard to pull it off in a way that is efficient, but at the same time is fair, and at the same time involves everyone. So it's kind of that governance component that we have seen in a lot of projects that is really hard to pull off in a transparent and efficient way. So that was probably the hardest lift.
Having gone through this whole cycle, what can you share with other founders on the top lessons, the do's and don'ts of launching a token?
Well, I would say you need to be prepared. The scenario is an ever evolving scenario where different jurisdictions, different laws. So you need to do your homework there to understand, where is the right jurisdictions for this kind of exercise, and make sure you get professional advice early on from a legal and also different professionals' point of view. There is a lot happening in the US right now, so it's good to follow that closely. It seems to be a lot open compared to what it used to be a while ago. But in general, I would say there is a 3 to 6 months homework that you need to do before you even consider yourself ready. And then there is a lot of technical teams are somewhat underestimating, which is the communication and marketing side of things, because now you are not in charge of making decisions anymore as a core team potentially that started a project. Then there is also a lot of work that goes into coordinating decision making and coordinating a multi-party community that probably you kind of you underestimated at the beginning for sure. And then there is a lot of cost involved with getting all the professionals in place that give you the right advice to get the right path. My best advice would be, if you are a founder and you are thinking about launching a token for your project, then do make sure you have some founder who has been there and has done that before next to you to help you to at least make sure you don't have any blind spots and estimate the effort and the cost of the overall endeavor. I have heard very diverse stories among founders that have gone through the process of launching a new token, starting from selecting the network, selecting the overall token dynamics, building a tokenomics model, building different jurisdictions and corporate structures to do that effectively, but also kind of designing the incentives, and all of that is quite a project. And if you have, say, 1 or 2 founders who have been there and done that before you, to advise you, it probably really kind of shortens the time and effort that you need to put in to get there.
Being a founder is not easy. It's very easy for a lot of people to assume that it's all rainbows, because that's what marketing's all about. It's about shouting about the best things that are going on, but really it is tumultuous, it's volatile, it's taxing. Can you talk about a moment where you seriously considered even giving up? Was there a time where you were really feeling like what's going to happen next, and how did you get through it?
That's a good question. As a founder, I think you kind of need to understand what your energy sources are and how to tap into them. So, being a founder is a little bit like chewing glass, while you're delivering your product every day. So there needs to be some sort of motivation that makes you go through the grind and the stressful times. I would say one of the secrets is to have a good balance with your co-founders. So you basically are a team with locked arms that are fighting the outside world and the inside fires in a way that it kind of spirals upward in terms of energy. So, select the right co-founders, put the right support systems in place. And, you need to I think if you are trained to deal with rejection and also deal with failures, kind of it gives you an upper hand in the founder journey, because, well, there's a lot of rejections along the way from VCs that might not want to invest in your product, to customers that might not want to use your product, to team members that might not want to work with you anymore. So there's a lot of rejection in there. And then there is also a lot of upside that potentially give you energy, and you need to channel it and store it. But as long as you build an exceptional team that is there for you and you have a strong co-founder setup, it should be smooth sailing for at least for the internal items. where I find my energy and how, if I ever thought about giving up, there were a lot of crises along the way. Some are more external, some are more internal, some are personal ones even, right? So I don't know. In my case, I know my source of energy and I know how to tap into that. And so it kind of always pushed me through anything that comes my way. I think if you have this kind of optimistic attitude to life in general, where you're like, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn kind of mentality, it really does help you to foster all failures and turn that into learnings that then make you stronger as a human being, as a professional, and as a person, right? To kind of grind more. And then I think that, I don't know, you really need to have a strong sense of mission. So let's say that you are running a small SaaS business, right? And the SaaS business is just basically you're providing a small tool to someone and then it makes revenue and you're just trying to optimize that. It's a different type of startup than trying to build a new financial primitive that is a bit like a moonshot. So for something that is a moonshot, you really need to have conviction that that's how the world is going to look like in 10, 20 years. And then you need to kind of keep that long-term focus so that the current waves don't really affect you, because you are looking at the kind of long journey across the ocean, right? So as long as you have that conviction and that long-term vision, then I think a few waves are not going to move you that much.
How do you personally deal with like burnout and high stress? You had mentioned before, of course, that you're into rock climbing. You actually took your co-founder rock climbing as like a relationship testing kind of exercise between the two of you. Is that one of them? What do you do to kind of unwind?
Yeah, so I have two co-founders, and I've only managed to take one of them rock climbing. I took the entire team to the Dolomites for an offsite, though.
That's incredible.
So that's a good. It's a good that you mentioned that. So I did take one of my co-founders climbing in London when we were getting started, and because climbing you need a belay that kind of holds the rope when you are on the wall, it automatically builds some sort of trust, right? And so you can start trusting each other, you can start to rely on each other. And because you are actually taking risk, you are also starting to create a relationship where you're almost like trusting them with your life. Because if they don't hold you when you're falling, you are on the floor, maybe 10 meters fall. So that kind of trust building early on, I think it does really help, especially if the other person does the same with their own hobbies and so on.
What is next for Superfluid in 2025 and beyond?
Well, so I think this is the year where the community takes over and makes all the decision and steers the protocol and the project to where they see the most value. So it's kind of a year for, let's say, the founders or the core team to take one step back and just try to foster the community to take on progressively more leadership in the protocol. So that's one major change that was not there until now. And the other one is that this year I think payments are really picking up in crypto, and we are seeing a lot of the gray going away for from a legislation point of view, and institutions are coming in with large checks in RWA, in a lot of DeFi and so on. So I hope to see Superfluid become one of the building blocks of institutional DeFi, if you will, and also become one of the key rails for any sort of recurring distributions of tokens at scale, especially around rewards distributions and grants distribution, and even the application layer of the entire industry. So I have seen like unbelievable applications built with Superfluid where you have more than say 200,000 subscriptions live at any given moment in time where funds are moving across. So a fantastic playground even for new entrepreneurs that want to start building, if they need some sort of sophisticated financial tool that can transfer funds in real time from A to B, and in a composable fashion, then yeah, they should give it a shot and reach out to our team, and we're happy to help them.
Incredible. Well, Michele, good luck on the journey. It's been very successful so far. Congrats on the token launch. We'll end with a quick fire round. Doesn't have to be too fast. You can think about it a little bit. But 4 questions just to finish off and get your viewpoint. Your favorite crypto founder or thinker?
Oh, that's a hard one. I would say I really appreciate how Uniswap was started in a hostile environment, and how much Hagen has kept the mission straight in front of him for a long time. So I would go with that.
A crypto buzzword you would love to retire?
I want to get rid of shitcoin, not just the word, but the entire asset class.
Love that. A book or a podcast who's heavily influenced or has heavily influenced how you lead?
Crypto podcast?
A book or a podcast on how you lead. Is there anything that's really stood out?
Maybe in the early days, but not lately.
That's just come from experience. Lastly, one thing you would change about the crypto industry if you could?
That's an easy one. So I would try to cast the light to all the builders and remove all the fluff. So we have been plagued with a lot of low added value projects and people that run the casino effectively. And while it may sound positive because it brings more attention, I think overall it kind of poisons a little bit the industry.
Agreed. Yeah, there has to be a recentering around truth and what actually matters and what people care about and what's going to move humanity forward as opposed to backwards, and the casino doesn't help. 100%.
Well, look, everyone is using AI to build Ghibli-like, anime pictures, right? Instead of like solving cancer problems. So we know where the human world wants to just kind of steer things, and if they're not fun, they are not, thriving. But we should keep the fun. It's just we also want to see the value in there.
I agree with that. Have you made your own Ghibli photo yet? Admit it.
I actually made one with me and my girlfriend and just sent it to her. She's Japanese, right? So it does fit.
Fair enough. Callum's actually changed his profile picture to Ghibli on our Slack, at least privately. I have yet to do mine, but I'm behind the trend now anyway. Ellie, what kind of advice, looking back as a founder, would you give to other founders who are just starting out?
I would say find a mentor. So reach out to other founders that have done something similar to what you want to do in your industry and beyond. And I know that some of the most successful founders might not be as accessible as you would like them to be, but others are very accessible. I'm saying, even just a cold DM on Twitter, on X, could lend you a good relationship with someone who has a ton of experience and can at least paint a vision of the future that allows you to navigate it in an easier way, right? So please do reach out to founders like me and Dan, and ask your questions. And if you have any doubts on this journey altogether, or just to understand what kind of life you're gonna have on a personal capacity and for how long that's gonna be there, just reach out to founder and ask for help. I think that's one of the things that a lot of founders don't do, is like they don't ask for help when they should. So yeah, please reach out to any founder and maybe try to build a relationship rather than just ask for a favor.
I completely agree with that. I'd say early on, there's almost a proud kind of nature of not wanting to ask for help, but actually it's a virtue knowing how much you can ask for help and how much people are willing to help. Definitely that's a huge lesson, and I think loads of founders should value that. Mentors, advisors, get them around you as soon as possible. You can 10x your learnings on some things that you're going to fall flat on your face on in a few months' time. Yeah, great advice. Michele, thank you so much for joining this call on Dude With My Startup. It's been a long journey knowing you for the last 3 years, and I'm sure many more years to come in crypto and beyond. So thanks for coming on, and see you guys soon.
Thanks, Dan. It's been a pleasure.